Good morning everybody, my name is Noah and you're watching TJM Farming here on YouTube. If you're new around here, we are trying to be a Western Australian wheat and sheep farm, growing merino ewes, oats and barley this year on the banks of the Moore River in Western Australia. Today's video picks up off the back of last time where you saw us try to get the hay cutter ready, but it did not go well. If you didn't go watch that video, I'll leave a link to it in the top right hand corner of the screen right now, and as well as down below. But for the uninitiated who don't want to go back and watch that video, I'll give you a quick recap. Our hay cutter for this year is a New Holland 489 Haybine. It's a 9-foot cutter, and it is what we call a Haybine or mower conditioner. It's belonged to the previous owners of this farm. It's been sitting in the shed for the best part of 4 years, and we pulled it out at the start of this week just gone to try and get it up and working. Well, it did technically work for half a lap, but then we broke the knife drive on it. We had to replace some of the cutters that were broken on it, and then afterwards it just would not raise and lower. The axle shaft, which controls the wheels and lifts and lowers the actual mower conditioner, was not working. So since then we've taken that hay cutter to bits, and we've got its wheels sitting on the forks of the tractor here. This machine was a very old one. These were produced between 1977 and 1986, sometime in the mid-80s when Dad was growing up. So it's a 40-plus-year-old machine, and it is a right pain in the backside to take apart. But we've taken the bolts out of here, taken the bolts out of there, and this part slides up into the skid plate underneath the actual cutter bar. We'll go over and have a look. These two axles, they're meant to be lined up straight, because when these two sets of bracket plates here are bolted onto the actual hay cutter itself, these actually hook up to the hydraulics. The hydraulic ram would go right about there into that pinhole slot there. The hydraulic ram runs off one set of hydraulics from the tractor. It tells the hay cutter how to lift and lower and when to stop lowering. That's what this part is. This pivots so the wheel swings out, and this stays level with the actual frame. This makes the wheels roll backwards, and it's meant to try and keep straight. We have got these bush plate things over here that help to try and keep it smooth, but as we found out when we pulled this off last night, it is just a mess. Basically what happened is this got too much gunk in it, and we need to clean it all up. As you can see here, we've also got a weld along there, because this is meant to be welded onto this. And we tried to weld it at an awkward angle over there yesterday. It, again, did not go well. The weld actually went everywhere but the crack. So yeah, we're going to try and fix that today and get it sorted. Emphasis on try to fix this today. As I say, this is the first time we're using this particular model of hay cutter. We did have a Sperry-New Holland hay cutter, 2 of them up at Canna. Those were 469s. These were the model that came before, the 489. So they, yeah, pretty old machine, but it did the job. Pain in the ass to fix, of course, but again, they're cheap to operate, not supposed to be overly complicated, but yeah, that's what we're using. We propped it up with a stand there, some blocks there, and a stand on the other side. We lifted it up with the tractor. You can see this plate here, that's where that shaft that's hanging off the forklift over there, that goes onto here. And this part here helps to adjust the height of the actual machine. It bolts into place on the brackets on this end, just the same as it is on the other end. The left-hand side of the axle plugs into this, which in turn also plugs into this. This is your height adjuster rod. So you have that go up into there for safety, run that over there, and that's in like working mode. So when this is all hooked up and stuff, when the machine actually lowers, this rod right here will go up until there. That's as low as the hay cutter will go, and that basically stops it dragging in the dirt. But again, the reason why we've got it on stilts in the first place is because the actual axle broke at the weld. We do not want this dragging in the dirt, especially over in that paddock there where we've got some gravel rocks. We opened up a gravel pan by mistake because the plough earlier this year did a little bit too deep. The joy of farming, folks, the joy of farming. So yeah, that's basically the go with the hay cutter. Again, we're still at the early stage of the crop being ready. At the end of this weekend actually marks to the day around 6 or so months. We planted that back. We planted those 2 paddocks back in June, right at the very end of June. So again, we've got about a week or so of a window to be ready to go cut that. We just need to be very mindful of the temperatures in the next couple of weeks, because once the heat hits that paddock and that paddock, they'll start to turn. That'll be all right for grain harvesting. But again, we don't have our header down here, and it won't be very good for hay cutting because it will spoil the crop basically. Righto, you join us in the early hours of the afternoon, and look at that, we fixed it. So this morning we loaded the axle onto the trailer, took it down about half an hour's drive down south, where we had a recommendation from our neighbours for a bloke that does welding on the weekend. We took it to him, he welded it up for us, and we put the hay cutter back together. I'll put some photos on stuff on the screen right now. I missed the raised lower test, but from the sounds of things, we might have gotten it going yet. All eyes are now on the 489. If we can successfully cut a run, then we'll be doing pretty bloody good. It's not squeaking anymore, it's more of a rumble. But it's definitely cutting. Now we're going to have uneven passes all through here. Look at that go. This is the point where it stopped last time. Again, this is a thin stuff. That is working. That is working good. Now, bearing in mind, this hay crop, you saw us put this in right at the end of June into July. If you haven't, for those who are new around here and have joined us later on in the year, go back in the channel timeline, scroll down a couple of videos, and you'll see some ones that are called Seeding Extravaganza. That's basically our first successful crop on Erinvale, which I can call successful, because we've made it to the stage where, well, we put the crop in, we fertilised it, we watched it grow, now we're harvesting it for hay. And between these two paddocks is 7.5 hectares, not quite 8. on top of another 6 hectares out the paddock of oats for seed, as well as 33 hectares of barley. All of this, we're gonna let it sit and dry for a couple of weeks, and then we'll come back with the rake and the baler, and this will go be our hay bale supply to keep our sheep fed over the summer. Again? Knife. The knife? Just as well that we got the spare that's hidden in axle. Alright, back to the shed. Oh well. Time to pull it all apart and put it back together again. This time it's not going to be an extreme job like the axle, hopefully. But it works. Well, worked.
Between the short from earlier, the shorter 3 AM and the tender.
So what's this one here?
And that's Baling.
That's bellies, that's the shorter 3 AM. That stuff over there is oh well.
It's only lamb's bellies, isn't it?
No.
No,
Everything.
that's all the bellies. I think the lamb bellies.
No, the lamb bellies are in the pieces.
Yeah.
Oh, so these are you bellies.
Yeah.
And possibly the ram bellies as well.
Nearly a bar. There's actually a bar there.
Yeah, well, could be.
Could be.
Could be.
Righto, so you join us at the end of our shearing season. We have got all of our wool bales that we have pressed. Again, we've got the bellies in there, we've got the short mainline wool in there, a bit of pieces, and the last of the tender wool over here that we have left to press. But the rest of these bales, we've got about 13 in total. We got our wool buyer, Rob. He's come to collect the wool bales today. He's brought his truck. We're going to load these up.
Oh. I'll let you manoeuvre it.
Some additional context really quick. I made a video earlier on this year saying that the bales in Farming Simulator that spawn with the wool, the magic spawning Farming Simulator wool bales are technically illegal to sell in the international market. Like I say, we need to have the correct stencils and stuff, labelling the farm, the wool classing stencil, what kind of wool it is, and the number of the bales. All of this, like, these bales cannot leave the farm until they are marked for sale. And unlike Farming Simulator, where the sheep just magically spawn wool bales with no shearing involved whatsoever, perfectly stacked as a stack of 4 on pallets to go on the truck, we have to roll these out ourselves.
Oh, this is the last bar the lambs will fly out.
I think that one came to what, 193 or something?
Oh, I thought it was 180 something.
186. 186 I think it was.
The others are only 160.
Like I kept saying all throughout the shearing videos, go back and watch those earlier this year if you haven't already. These bales can vary in weight. The lightest bale weight that you can have to come out of the press is roughly around 130 kilos, and the largest you can have is hovering around that 200 mark, but we don't want to go over 200. We want to stick to 186 absolute maximum, because if we go over the limit, then one...
You get a fee for rebaling. And they're too blooming hard to handle.
Too hard to handle, and go well over the limit, and it'll bust the wool pack. The wool packs can only hold so much. Now, going back to that one comment I got a couple of weeks ago, asking why we don't have the sheep that like to paint pretty collages on our fence lines, the Australian whites and the Dorpers. We're a merino sheep farm on the bank of the Moore River here in Western Australia. We do not have wool shedders. If you want to go wool shedding, you go to Peter and Liz next door. That's their department. And on YouTube, the Australian White department, that belongs to Tara. I don't want to steal her thunder, especially as she's got the scheme coming up very soon in November. We're going to stick with our merinos because, sure, some people may say there's no more money in wool. I reckon that's a lie, even though the wool market may have gone on a downturn in the past couple of weeks. But the price is still much higher than it was a couple of years ago.
No. Oh, there'll be a mix of...
Looks like lamb's wool.
No.
No. Shouldn't
It
be.
came out, what's in that bin?
Got a knife?
Knife?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it just looks like it's short down there. It's right. Good wool.
Apart from its tender.
Good wool.
Swing it around.
I don't remember making these ones that heavy either.
There's a wool pack for you. That's a good wool pack. That one. Not that at all. 120 already.
Not bad.
Well and truly baled. That's it. You just roll it. That's it. So you're sitting in the tractor and away you go. Boom.
They have contractors doing it, but we gotta cover it. Bottom is dead. 186 already.
Yep.
Yep.
There you go. There's a bale. Just like that. Done. It is
And that is of the piss. Some people say that wool is not worth any money anymore. Well, you know something's up when we are baling the pissy wool, because even that is worth something. It's not worth as much as the 3AM mainline stuff, but it's worth something. And we need it out of here because we need shed space. But we got 2 wool packs that will probably go back in there for next year. So yeah.
Oh, it's better than what I did. I'm not having the right number in there. Yeah, where I went and got the thing welded up.
Line 14. Then we chuck that one in there. Out there. Then we put him about there.
Oh, you go that high?
Yep. No, doing it wrong. What I do, here's the classic one for you.
I haven't got
I
stones.
go a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, and a quarter.
Oh, righto.
Okay, so you put your name in the top quarter, that in the half, that
Oh,
in that quarter.
when
and
I
that
did
in that
mine,
quarter.
we were supposed to have it all down here, so when you fold the flap, you can still see it.
No.
I haven't got stones.
Yeah, you just work a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter. No, that's all right. S T that'll do. There you go. Put it in there. It's a bit big.
Oh, yeah, the old Nelmara.
Yep, that'll do. In
Wait,
there.
we still have the Nelmara stencils?
Yeah. Just the Mugga Wugga ones disappeared.
Yep.
Hmm.
Alright. Yep. And then we go across there and there you do pieces.
Pieces?
I'll put pieces on the top.
Yeah.
Pieces. Yep. Because they're big.
Oh,
They're
smudged.
chunky ones.
Oh, righto, I've always called it crutching.
Yeah. If they're chunky,
Yeah.
call them pieces.
So this stain bale alone is worth around 520 bucks. That's pretty good going, and that's for the stains. That's more along the cheaper side of things because of course it's piss stain, so it's not going to be as valuable as the good quality stuff, but if that is worth 520 alone, that's pretty good going. Right, now the utes are out the way, it's hay time. Again. Probably should. Make sure it actually works. That works. It works. If you haven't caught on by now, this place is full of dramas. It's like McLeod's daughters. really great show, by the way. Drama's a part of farming. That's the way things are. Machines break, sheep get out, stuff like that happens. Things do go wrong. But it's all about how we react to these trials and challenges that influences how we go in the year. It takes a resilient person to be a farmer, and sure, we may swear and all this other jazz during the day when we're fixing machinery, but at the end of the day, we find joy in growing these crops, growing these sheep. And sure, it may not make a lot of money in some years, in years like this where the conditions aren't right in the season, but it's a way of life, and we're going to continue doing that way of life until this farm becomes profitable. And off we go. Just double check, do the milky test. Yep, we got oat juice. Now normally this is the part where I'd send the drone up, but as you can probably hear in the camera, it is a bit windy, and with the amount of breakdowns that this hay cutter's had so far, I need to be switched on and on the ground. So we're going to film on the grounds. Besides, it'd expose how thin the crop is from the air, so let's not do that. Let's make it look nice and pretty. Good morning. Welcome to Sunday. We've got a problem, and it concerns the hay cutter again. Yeah. Okay, so we thought we had everything good to go. We had everything lubricated. We thought that after we replaced the knife drive again, the hay cutter would be all set, all fine and dandy. Haha. Yeah, a bearing initially went on the rollers. We fixed that. Dad fixed that this morning, I think. He did one lap around there, coming down that pass, and then it started making a whole bunch of banging. Now, keeping in mind, we adjusted the skids on the bottom of the hay cutter here so that it no longer drags in the ground, meaning that we'll have less of a chance of rocks coming into the actual knife drive cutter bar there and striking the knives, causing more issues. Well, pretty much what happened was Dad was coming down that side. We heard a whole bunch of noise. Something went bang and the knife drive stopped cutting. And the reason for that is because the actual arm that bolts into the knife drive and helps it wobble back and forward from the wobble box, that arm has snapped. And of course, you've got to remember that the maintenance has been pretty poor on this hay cutter. We have not touched it until this year and tried to fix it. The state that the hay cutter is in with all these dodgy hydraulic hoses and stuff, that was from the before era of this farm. Now you can see a whole bunch of hydraulic oil leaking down there and stuff.
That's not hydraulic oil. Oh, well, it depends where you're looking. That black shit's out of that gearbox.
Yeah.
I'd love to change that gearbox oil, but not while I'm working on it.
Yeah. So, essentially, the arm that bolts into that bearing which drives the knife drive on the cutter bar there, that's broken. And, well, there's evidence to suggest that the previous owners of this hay cutter did not look after it very well, and they tried to do bush mechanics. Now, there's a difference between really innovative bush mechanics, like what we tried to do with our combine earlier this year with the liquid tank on the front, and then there's the really dodgy bush mechanics that the people that do it, you don't really tend to see them post about it on social media. We have found some diagrams online of like a spreadsheet of what all the parts on this hay cutter are supposed to look like, and something's not adding up. So what we're trying to do now is we're going to try and unbolt that arm. Well, Dad's underneath the hay cutter trying to unbolt the arm now. We've got the safety stop in, so we're all good there. We need to try and unbolt that arm, pull it out, and see what the go is. Because this is actually a pretty major problem. Sure, the axle breaking on that weld there, that was a major job too. But none of that actually matters if the knife drive won't drive, because it won't cut, and then if the hay will just simply go underneath the cutter and it won't actually be cut, meaning you're just going to have flattened crop at the end of it. Not very good for the hay crop over there. So that's the skid guard down there, isn't it?
That's just a guard, yeah.
That one's come out of the arm.
Oh, yeah, and there should have been another washer on top. I don't know where that fucking went. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it didn't. That's that.
Right, so you're joining us down at the shed here in the middle of the afternoon, and we had to remove the gearbox. Essentially, the hay cutter now has no gearbox. The gearbox had to be taken out because some silly bugger went and welded the main arm that connects the gearbox to the knife drive, welded it on. Not good. That implies that the spline might be buggered as well. So we've taken the gearbox out, we've taken it over to the shed. Dad's trying to grind it at the moment. Now we need to try and get these counterweights off.
It would have been handy to weld something around it.
Right, so you join us pretty much at knock-off time. Just when we thought everything was up and going again, the arm underneath the gearbox fucking broke again. Yep, I'm being uncensored on this one because honestly, the amounts of running around with that piece of shit they call a Haybine. We're gonna need to get a new arm, which means we need to pull that skid off, undo a couple of bolts, but quite honestly, I don't know. We spent all afternoon trying to fix this. Exactly. Well, that's farming, isn't it? You get days where you go really well and other days where it's just shit and nothing gets done. Even when you rebuild stuff like that. Oh well. It's alright, we'll get it fixed eventually. It just means we have to spend more money that we don't really want to spend on that piece of shit.